It's Friday.
Oh,
Yes. Hello
so
from the East Coast of Canada. Anita and Tina here once again to share social media tips and strategies for small businesses who are paddling against the tides, trying to get to shore in a sea of platforms. It's the Social Coast, and we welcome you, swimmers. So, we just listened in to the Social Media Examiner blab that was pretty much amazing algorithms for everybody like us. And here we are going to talk about it as well, but we did plan this without knowing what theirs was going to be.
yeah.
Um, and I guess, I don't know, I feel pretty good that most of what we were planning to say is the same stuff they were saying. So, yay, us.
I'm going to talk a little bit about strategy with the changes to the Facebook algorithm.
Yep.
At least what we can kind of forecast might be a good strategy given what we know now. And then hopefully pop some links into the comment box because there are Facebook news pages that you can follow for updates on best practices, which is something that I hadn't been doing regularly, but realized that with weekly changes, it's something that I myself really want to do on a more regular basis for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so a few little housekeeping tips. First, for anybody that's just joining us, if you log in with Twitter, when you click on the link, then you'll be able to interact with us. We might be able to get you to call in later to chat with us live. And at the very least, if you log in with Twitter, the chat window either over on the right or down below, depending on your device, allows you to chat questions and comments back and forth with us. So we would love for you to log in. If you could take a second to click on the tweet button and let everybody know that we are live, that would also be wonderful. We appreciate that.
And thanks for doing that, Craig.
If you have a question, please type /Q in the chat before your question so that we can actually pull it up on screen as we're talking about it. It highlights it. So we would love for you to be able to do that as well. So we're going to talk about amazing algorithms today because I think there were two big announcements about algorithms this week, one from Twitter and one from Facebook. And I think a lot of people, especially the small business owners and the everyday user, do not know that these algorithms even exist. They think they're just seeing everything, or they think they've done something wrong so that they're not seeing everything on Facebook and LinkedIn. So these algorithms exist everywhere, and they do different things depending on which network you're on. So we wanted to talk about what the algorithms are, what they purport to do, why they're there, and then also talk about some strategies and tips for making the algorithms work for you, or how to get around the algorithms if you can, or what this is going to mean for a small business, because we don't all have the advertising dollars of a Coke or a Pepsi or a Domino's pizza.
Yeah, and in some cases, it's tips for what to avoid so that you're not punished by the rules of the algorithm. So I want to start with the definition, like a layman's, a regular old person's definition of what is an algorithm, because I'm not a mathematician, or a computer programmer, but it's just a set of rules that is running in the background on Facebook or Twitter, platforms like that. And the algorithm defines specific instructions in a specific order, and those instructions in that order tell the computer how to carry out a specified task. So on Facebook, if the specified task is to filter all the posts available to you in your newsfeed and push through only the top posts, then that's the newsfeed algorithm we're talking about today, that filtering or selection process. And no one knows what the set of rules are, or how to game the system, which is that phrase I really dislike that you hear in the marketing world all the time. It's not about gaming the system. It is about, being your authentic business online, offering value as much as you can, getting your online presence to reflect your brand and your voice and be something that, people can really relate to. And not just be more noise in the background. Okay, so Anita, did you want to start by talking about sort of summarizing some of the key points about Twitter? I would say I'm more prepared to talk about Facebook today. I have more detail prepared there for sure.
Okay, so Twitter has been playing with this idea of a timeline for a little while, but they made an announcement that it's available as a choice to users right now. So we've had unfiltered Twitter for as long as Twitter has existed. And people are up in arms that Twitter is going the way of Facebook. They are now going to try and determine for us what we want to see in the newsfeed. As Tina was saying, it uses all of these different signals to figure out what you're going to want to interact with, what you're most likely to want to read, what you're going to want to retweet, all of those kinds of things. And from what we can read, Twitter is doing what Facebook has been doing up to this point. It's a mathematical thing. If you do this on a regular basis, you are more likely you're going to want to see that content again. If you talk to this person, if Anita talks to Tina a lot on Facebook, if they interact a lot, then we're going to show Anita more of Tina's content because Anita likes Tina's content. So I was trying to explain this to somebody this morning, actually, and I said it's a reactive algorithm. It reacts to what you're already doing. So the more you interact with something and the more popular something is, the more other people react to it, the more likely you are to get to see it. So my understanding of the Twitter algorithm that they're coming in is that that is how it's going to work. That if something is posted and it gets a lot of engagement, it gets a lot of retweets or a lot of favorites, a lot of comments, whatever, then you're going to be more likely to see that than the next tweet that has absolutely nothing. So it's going to be a reactive algorithm. Now, and I turned mine on yesterday. This was just announced on Wednesday, I think. I turned mine on yesterday, and I actually right away couldn't even discern the algorithm. But when I looked at it this morning, so I don't know if it took a while for it to kind of turn itself on, but when I looked at it this morning during the Social Media Examiner Blab, it was very clear. It was very obvious that the top, my goodness, I scrolled for quite a while. The top 50 at least tweets were put there because of the algorithm. They all had lots of engagement. They were all about social media. They were all from my top social media gurus, if you will. There was Social Media Examiner, Rebecca Radice, Sue Zimmerman, Brian Fanzo. All of these people were popping to the top of my newsfeed. And so then I did pick up an interesting thing. If you refresh it, it goes back to your chronological order. So the interesting thing here is that you can go and look and see these top most popular best tweets, as they're calling them. And then if you refresh, you go back to the chronological order. So you can still right now see Twitter as you're used to seeing it. So that's what they've done right now. In conjunction with this, however, is the interesting thing they've put in for advertisers that's coming out. I think it's only in the US right now, and it's going to be for big budget advertisers, but it's called First View. And it's a paid advertising option so that your tweet now appears at the very top of the timeline when people log in. So if you've got the budget and you want people to see that you're launching a product today, you can actually pay to have that be the very first thing that they see when they log on to Twitter. I have no indication yet where that budget line is going to be. But so these are interesting things that Twitter is doing to change how we interact with Twitter. There was also there's a separate algorithm that creates a home page for people who aren't logged in to Twitter. So if you just go to twitter.com and you're not actually logged into your Twitter account, you'll get a special curated feed, if you will, of a whole bunch of different topics. And it's based on your location partly. I don't know what other things are factoring into this, probably popularity and engagement for sure. And that's aimed at helping people find content that is relevant to them to get them to join Twitter. So I think that right there is very telling, because the whole thing is about trying to get more people to join Twitter, because as they just released, their numbers are stagnant, whichever. And they're now on a bend of trying to grow the follower base of Twitter and the user base. So they have to find ways to make this easier for the regular person. And the regular person, you know, the moms and dads who aren't on here figuring out how to use all of this stuff for business, they're just looking at this, you know, feed of stuff coming in that has no relevance to them, because it's all about the Kardashians and the Britney Spears and the Justin Biebers or whatever. Twitter's trying to help them figure that stuff out. So a couple of different algorithms there, but the big announcement this week was that Twitter is bringing in an algorithm. It's opt-in right now. You can turn it on in your settings under your, I forget which option it was under the settings, but privacy or something like that. So you can turn that option on and then go back to your Twitter home feed and see how the algorithm works for you. The other option is, of course, to set up lists. And while many first-time users and newbies to Twitter don't understand how to use lists, that can really help you see all the stuff that's most important to you as well. So that's the scoop on the Twitter algorithm. It's coming. Right now it's opt-in, but it's going to be rolled out to everybody eventually.
Exactly. And from what I have heard about it, once it goes in that direction, there's no turning back. And that's typically over the years how Twitter has approached changes. So even though there's been this big change in leadership at Twitter, they're still kind of following their regular strategy for rollouts, which is to make it optional, test it out on people, and then make it permanent. Okay, so I put in a couple of long links that are a really good read if you want to find out more about the Facebook changes to their algorithm, but I'm going to break it down. So those are just for your reference, something to bookmark if you want to look at it later. Okay, so maybe we should answer this Twitter question first. Can you put a /Q in front of that one, Arch Alien? I love saying your name, Arch Alien. Can you put can you copy and paste that with a /Q space and then paste that back in so we can bring your question up in the right on our screen here? Okay, so hopefully you can do that. And in talking about the changes to Facebook, really, these changes are to the algorithm affect Facebook pages specifically, and they have a lot of advantages for our organic posts. So posts that we're not intending to boost, or just ways to gain more visibility with our organic posts so that we don't have to turn everything into an ad. And it's also, I actually love this news so much. Facebook's making it possible for us to reach from our page people who aren't our fans. I'm going to tell you how. Okay, so there is, and I had a screen capture for this, but if you go to your Facebook page and you type in as if you're about to start a status update, you're going to see an icon on the bottom there on the far right that is audience optimization. It's sort of a circle with a dot or a little symbol in the middle. If you don't see that, go to your page settings and make sure that it's turned on, okay? And then once it's turned on, go back to your page, and when you click on audience optimization, there are 3 features to that new to this new algorithm change. And the first one's called preferred audience. Okay, so preferred audience is the most exciting one because it is totally different than what used to be called the audience targeting. So there's preferred audience, audience restrictions, which is very similar to the old audience retargeting, and audience insights. So talking about preferred audience. When you're in there and you want to set a preferred audience, you can add interest tags. So this is similar to adding a hashtag or a keyword on Twitter, but you're going to basically add up to 16 tags to your post. And so I might add things like Facebook, social media, marketing, DIY social media, just marketing, entrepreneurs, startup, hustle, anything that might relate to my market, okay? And I'm going to add those to my post if it relates to, what was that face?
Don't worry about it. Not important.
Okay. If it adds to your target audience for that post. Now, what these tags do, these interest tags, is they reach everybody on Facebook, everybody, not just your page followers. That is so important. You know, you don't pay for them either. They're free. So you can add them. And then later on, with the third feature, which is your audience insights, you can go back and see how each and every different tag performed in reaching that target audience, okay? So what a great way to, if you have a targeted plan, social media plan, if your content is targeted, if you've done that work in the background, which is the work I love so much, right? It's like target all your content, figure out what kind of mix of content you want to put in there that gives value to people, some things that are interesting and informative, some things that are just fun and entertaining. So you have that mix in there, but now you can kind of push that out. Facebook's going to connect your tags with people who've indicated an interest in those particular topics. And they'll do that across Facebook. So that is amazing. And then you can see how you did, right? You just go look at the insights later and see how you did. You really need to use this too, because the other thing that's happening with the algorithm change is if you're pushing out a lot of content and it's not valuable to your target audience, Facebook will, your ranking in your Facebook posts will decline, right? So this is a way for you to kind of keep an eye on how your posts are doing and to reach beyond your Facebook page fan circle, which is fantastic. So definitely go check that out today with your next post. Okay, and then the other thing is the audience restrictions. So you can still limit who you want to see this post. You can do that by demographics, right? So location, gender, age, language, that sort of thing. So if you know that this will only be relevant to people who are speaking your language, you can put English in there or French or whatever your language is. If you are a business that works only in a particular region, you can tag that region or restrict by that region. These are the audience restrictions, right? If you're targeting a particular age demographic or gender, also really helpful. Okay, so these are the three features you're setting up with every post. And then you'll eventually get to the point where you kind of know your own magic formula for your target, which is great. Okay, and then check audience insights. And like I said, you can check that for every single tag, which is amazing. So why is Facebook doing this? I mean, do they just want to annoy us and frustrate us by making another big change, right? Yeah. No. Actually, Facebook is always striving to show us the stories that matter most to us. And recently they changed the way that they're researching that. So before this year, we all know that, you know, the more popularity a post had, the more of a boost it would get in the algorithm. So more likes, more comments, more shares equals more visibility, right? More reach. But that's not strictly true anymore. It's still basically true, right? There's no dramatic change there. It's still basically true. But the difference is that now Facebook is using what they call a news feed quality, what are they called? The feed quality panel. And this is over 1,000 users that they've had them rate their experience daily on Facebook in a very, hands-on way to match up those that each person's interests with the content that they like. And so then they've used all of that. It's qualitative research. So it's not quantitative. It's not numbers. It's not number metrics. It's the human element, right? So they've taken all that research about what people who are interested in certain topics are actually engaging with on Facebook, and they've added it into the mix. And research that Facebook is also doing is like artificial intelligence technology. So they're using their research with the feed quality panel and their artificial intelligence to kind of try to bring in the human interest element into the formula for the algorithm. The other thing they've been doing is conducting daily surveys of tens of thousands of Facebook users. And the reason that they want to do that is exactly the same, just to see what they're engaging with and how it relates to their interests, what is meaningful for them, what's giving them value. So then qualitatively, so I have to keep making sure I get the right word there, qualitatively, they're taking the results of that research, the human element, right? And they're looking at how that might relate to the whole population of over 1 billion people daily being active on Facebook and a few billion users worldwide, right? So they're kind of applying this research from a small sample of regular users and people who've been employed to be part of this quality newsfeed team, right? And they're applying that to all of Facebook. So I love this because the good news is we're not just numbers anymore. The good news is there's a human element, and that good content and thoughtful content and good strategy has a snowball's chance in hell of making it through all the noise to brand new, to sort of gain brand new visibility with people. And through the tags and just through how people are responding to that content. So I think it's fantastic news. I'm actually super excited about it.
I can't say I'm super excited about it, but hopefully it will have a good impact. And we're going to talk about, for both of these algorithms, what it means for small businesses. But one of the things that struck me about both of these announcements coming out together is that Twitter is just one step behind Facebook. So Twitter is putting in an algorithm to help filter out the fire hose of information. And it's going to use all of the stuff that Facebook is just starting to leave behind.
Exactly.
And Facebook is moving on. Yeah.
It's a big step behind Facebook.
Yeah. And so I used the word reactive when I talked about the Twitter algorithm. It's going to react to what you do, whereas Facebook is going to go proactive or predictive and try to predict what you will do and what you will like. And it's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for people that are putting out good content, it's good news. And it doesn't mean that automatically there's, viral results overnight, but it does mean that we have a whole new way to reach people on Facebook that we don't have to pay for with every single click or, with every post. And to me, that's pretty exciting. Because sometimes Facebook page accounts, especially ones for small businesses that are smaller accounts, get very insular. They get sort of an inner circle of people that follow them regularly. And with the last changes over the last couple of years to the Facebook algorithm, that became even more so because we got so much control over our own notifications and what we choose to see and not see. And we could filter out any content that we didn't want. The problem with that is once you filter out content from a page, you don't see it anymore as much or at all. And then you can't decide to opt back in because you just don't think of that page. You don't have reminders. So this is a really proactive way that allows page owners, small business people, bloggers, anyone who's coordinating any kind of project or organization that has a page to be able to use it without having to have a big advertising budget. I think that's the exciting thing for me.
So the piece I'm missing about all of this with the audience optimization, first of all, you have to do it on every post, right? You can't set it and forget it, right?
Sorry, say that again, Anita. I was just reading the comment.
Okay, sorry. You have to set the audience optimization for every update, correct? You can't just set it once and have that work forever.
I don't know yet because I haven't played with it enough to know if you have to do it every time, but I'm assuming you do because you're going to be picking your interest tags for each post, but they might pre-populate every time. I'm not sure. It's like the news is 2 days old to me. So
I haven't touched that yet either. So what I don't understand is how are people who are not associated with the page yet going to see this content? Is it going to be suggested posts? Because that's something we've had to pay for.
The way I understand it is that Facebook within the algorithm is going to match up your interests with posts that have that same interest tagged. So I would imagine there's a whole pool of posts that have the same tags, right? And so probably within that pool, the most successful posts, so the ones that get the most engagement, or probably that's different types of engagement, are the ones that are going to get boosted. So we will see them just in our newsfeed, is what I'm assuming. Just exactly the same way that we would see a sponsored ad or a boosted post or something like that. Facebook within the algorithm is doing the matching up, so we don't have control over the demographics or the targeting in the same way, except through which interest tags we choose to allocate to each post, which is why it's really important to look at the insights afterwards and see how it did. And that's where we'll see what the reach was and what the engagement was on it. So I think once we play with this a bit, because it's so brand new, in a few weeks' time, I think we'll have a much better idea of how that works with reach and engagement. I would say, of course, it's not going to be as effective as buying an ad and targeting that ad, right? But it is a way to get your content seen beyond just having one of your page fans share that content or engage with it. Facebook's now going to the algorithm is now going to be engaging with our posts in a different way.
It's interesting because that is something we've had to pay for before, and here they're going to, it's not exactly the same as a sponsored post, but now they're going to give us this for free. It seems almost too good to be true. I don't trust it.
I think in the Social Media Examiner blab where they had talked about this briefly, I think someone mentioned that this is probably a precursor to some new form of paid marketing. We don't know. We really don't know. But what we do know right now is that we can definitely make use of it, right? Mm-hmm. Build your page with great content right now while you've got this these fantastic new features at your fingertips for free. Like dive in, go for it, test it out, and see how your posts do. So Lance, you're wondering about, on a page, you don't have private settings. There is only a public setting. So are you thinking of, so Lance's question is, I assume you would turn your private settings off for this on Facebook, but it sounds, Lance, like you're talking about a personal profile on Facebook. And all of these algorithm changes, all of these particular algorithm changes relate to Facebook pages. Mm-hmm. So when you post on a page, you only have one visibility setting option, and that's public. So unless you've created a secret group of some kind on your page, every post is public.
Public, but you can restrict it some. It's still public on your page, but you can push it out to restricted groups. So you can push it out and say, only push this out in Canada, for example. But if an American comes to your page, I believe they can still see it on your page. They just don't get it in their news feed. So we are talking about this from the perspective of pages and people trying to promote something that's on a page format, so a business or a charity or an event or an author or whatever on a page versus a personal profile. But it does affect what you're going to see in your personal profile, in your timelines, in your newsfeed when you log in now. So in amongst all of the stuff from your wife and your sister and your cousins and your kids and your friends and colleagues, now, according to what Tina's saying, you might start seeing suggested posts from other pages that you haven't yet liked because they talk about the things that you're interested in. So it is a really good opportunity for small businesses to put out really good, unique content rather than just sharing the shit out of everything else. It's interesting how it's going to affect us on a personal level too.
Yeah, and that's such a great point, Anita, because a lot of people in their strategy use curated material or just sharing as the lion's share of their content strategy or their social media plan for their page. And that's, it's good to have some of that in there, but it's not good for you necessarily if you need to target an audience to a particular event or business or product that you have for sale or something like that. So it's good to have it in the mix, but make sure it's really great content. And I would also say you have to be aware of the fact that a lot of people share the same content if it's really great content. So, for example, all social media marketers pretty much follow Social Media Examiner. That means a lot of people share Social Media Examiner content. Now, it's good to do that occasionally, but you want to be aware of the fact that the Facebook algorithm has always kind of demoted duplicate content posts. So if it's not original content, you're not going to get the same kind of boost. So you have to be sort of strategic and savvy about what you're going to share, when you're going to share it. Maybe don't share something when everybody in the world is sharing that post. If you are going to share it, have your own plan. I'm such a huge advocate for every small business person creating a social media plan for their business that works for their business. And step one of that is always know your target audience. You have to know the person you're talking to, so you have an idea in your mind of the kind of person you want to reach with your content. And once you know that, then you can put a plan together. Well, what do I want to tell this person about my business on social media, and how do I want to do it? How do I want to present that? Anita and I and some other guests and friends that we've had on who are also social media consultants over the past couple months have talked for hours about the importance of things like video content. And in Facebook, if you're going to use that on your page, try out native video on Facebook. Do the things that the algorithm is going to reward and promote. But underlying all of that is a plan. So I can never stress the importance of that enough, because I don't think most business people take it very seriously. They probably enjoy marketing as much as I enjoy accounting, which isn't a whole lot. So regardless of how much you enjoy social media marketing for your business, it's so important to have a plan and to understand, who your target market is, what you want to tell them, what you want to share with them, what's valuable and meaningful to them, what's entertaining to them, what do they need right now, what's timely and topical today, right?
So I have a recommendation. This is why I got up from my chair, because I was having this discussion with my meeting this morning, and this is his old book, but I want to it's probably all backwards. I want to recommend anybody that's listening, buy this book. It's a couple years old now, Utility by Jay Baer. He has a new one coming out that is a different topic altogether, which I'm sure is going to be fabulous. This book will explain to you what kind of marketing you need to do in this day and age to be successful and to cut through the algorithms. It's all about being helpful, providing you in usefulness. So if you sit down and think about all of the information that you give out on a daily basis when you're talking face to face or phone to phone or email to email with customers, and start providing that to the public via Facebook, via videos, via Periscope or Blab, or on your website in a blog, then not only does that cut down the time that you might have to spend answering the same questions over and over and over, but it markets for your business just by providing all that information. So, in a way, that's kind of what Tina and I are doing here. We're providing all of our knowledge eventually, whatever we can, through things like this Blab for the small businesses, and it markets for our businesses.
That's
so
right.
This book is worth the $20 that it's going to cost you, or maybe less now that his new one's coming out. There's two quick little taglines that I want to mention from it. One that he said somewhere in promoting this is, make your marketing so good that people would actually pay you for it. Make marketing so good that people would pay you for it and give it away for free. So, by doing, we're providing free training here, basically. But people would actually pay us to sit down and talk about social media strategy.
And they do.
And they do, absolutely, and they do. And that was the same thing I was talking about this morning with, it was a television production company. He was saying, the way he's seeing things go is that companies, and we talked about Nike, he's not working with Nike, don't get excited for us here, but a company like Nike should become a sports channel in and of itself by having content that relates to its products that aren't about its products that Nike owns. So Nike does a documentary on Michael Jordan or whoever. I don't even know if I got the sponsor relationship right there. That's how much I follow basketball.
Yeah, adding value to your community starts with knowing that target market and what they find valuable. And, the difference is, if marketers worry about this sometimes, or business people worry about this sometimes because they think, well, I don't want to give myself away for free or give my services away for free. And you're not. All you're doing is you're helping someone, you're showing them, guiding them through some helpful tips. But what you're not giving away is they don't have you sitting there with them customizing this to their business, helping them to develop this specifically for their business and developing the content specifically for their business. So never, ever worry that you're giving it all away for free. You just aren't. Always provide value.
And the other thing, I say that to people as well, but the other thing I add to that conversation is, if they listen to what you say or read your blog or take your newsletter and then they go do it themselves, they were not your ideal customer to begin with. Your ideal customer is the one that looks at all that and says, oh, you're the expert. I need you to help me with this. That's your ideal customer, not the person who's coming in and taking it all for free and going and doing it themselves. They were never your ideal customer, so don't worry about them.
Yeah, and like in this Blab, Anita and I embrace that we want people to come into this Blab who want and need tips and are going to take it all away and do it themselves for free. That's the whole point. And it's not even hug your haters, because they're not haters. They're part of our target audience. Part of your target audience is people that will see the value of your brand, talk about the value of your brand, give you some exposure just through interacting with your brand and engaging with it. So all of that's really great stuff. Like I embrace all of that. It's so crazy. Like I've had the craziest year where I just am quietly in the background, working my butt off for my clients, and then more visibly in the foreground, doing my own social media for my own business online. And I have done very little face-to-face marketing. I have done no cold calling. I am holding the hounds at the door because my business is at capacity for what I can actually manage to do in the course of a week. But the thing is, if you're out there doing it and showing people that you do it, and in the background, you're actually executing and doing this for your clients, word gets around, referrals get around. And that is such an amazing way to build your business. So one thing I want to say about numbers, people get obsessed with numbers. And I see this with people wanting to go viral and have, tens of thousands of followers here and there. But ask yourself realistically, how many actual clients do you need and want? The number is probably small if you're a small business owner who provides services. It's different if you're a small business owner who's selling products, right? But that's a different strategy and approach. But if you're like us and you provide a service, really zero in on that ideal target market, and you can never go wrong. Never, never.
Yeah, I just put over in the chat, I had a client once on the first meeting say, we want 100,000 fans on our Facebook page. That was like the first thing he said to me. And I'm like, really? Well, I can go buy those for about $100. Is that good enough? Really? And then I had to explain to him, it opened up the conversation of why you don't want to do it that way. So yeah, numbers are not all.
And it's annoying too, because I just realized I was following a TV show on Instagram. I don't follow TV shows on Instagram. So some marketer had, built up an account to 20,000 people, sold it off to a TV show, and was showing, whatever. It became their account. So I unfollowed just because I don't watch that TV show, and I don't particularly like that tactic. I think that is kind of the dirty dog move, right? So if you are building an online community for a business, or you are building an online community for your own business, it's important who's in that community, right? It's you wouldn't build a high-end chic boutique fashion boutique in the worst neighborhood in town, and vice versa, right? There has to be a match between the target audience and where they're located, right? So you need to care about these things, and marketers on Twitter and Facebook need to care about these things, and business owners have to get a whole lot more savvy, I think, in some cases, because they get dazzled by numbers. And I think it's a certain type of left brain person who gets dazzled by numbers. Wow, that account has 150,000 people. Yes, we'll buy it. What's the price? But the account is whoever, or a bunch of machines that are just connected to follow a whole bunch of accounts. It's not a meaningful audience unless you've built it in a meaningful way with content that relates to the people in the audience, in the community.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the tips and strategies for working with these algorithms, because we've really talked about how the algorithms work and what the changes are, predictive versus reactive, qualitative, quantitative, all of that stuff. So what are some of the things people can do to work within these algorithms to still continue to get their content seen? So you, on Facebook, you talked about setting the audience optimization for each post. That's going to help. Of course, we can always advertise. That will help improve your reach if you have the budget for it. Providing good content is the big one. That's the theme we're seeing now, is providing less copied content and more unique, really good quality content of your own is probably the best tip we can provide. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, if you're going to also develop ads, use those same target keywords. So with your interest tags, use those same keywords for your marketing efforts. If you're going to buy an ad, just try to really zero in on your target community. Like, whether it's paid or unpaid, your target market is the same.
Mm-hmm. And there was one really interesting tip in the Facebook news release about this change. I'm just trying to find it within the news release so I can read it right out. It's at the very bottom, and here, I'll put the link in. I don't know if you've already shared the link for this or not. I didn't catch all of your links.
You can share it again.
So that's the link to the Facebook news release or explanation of what's going on. At the very bottom, it says, in general, pages should avoid encouraging people to take an action, such as encouraging people to click, because this will likely only cause temporary spikes in metrics that might be rebalanced by the feed's ranking over time. So basically, you know, we've been saying to people, you know, you have to find a way to encourage people to like and share your content so that it builds momentum and Facebook will share it out to other people. And now they're rolling that back and saying, don't ask people to click and share and like, because that doesn't get you the kind of engagement that they're looking for. So one of the other big things, I don't think I heard you mention this part, Tina, was that part of the new Facebook algorithm will be looking at things like, how did they phrase that? Time
spent.
Time spent reading, or time spent reading, something like that. So they're actually going to be tracking, if you click on a link that you found in your Facebook newsfeed, how long did you spend on that link? Did you actually click like without checking the link? And did you click like within 3 seconds of it appearing in your newsfeed? Which means you didn't even really look at it. You're just clicking like because it said to click like, or you're just clicking like because that's your sister or it's Tina or whatever. So now they're starting to take into account all of these other things that go on in our heads to say whether or not this is actually really important content. That to me, that stuff is this kind of scary part. Maybe scary for personal reasons, like scary, like Big Brother kind of scary, that they're getting into looking at, you know, how long you spend on an article and how long something's in your news feed before you interact with it. And that stuff is just, wow.
Yeah, Facebook is not measuring just our actions, but like you say, the level of engagement. Yeah. And the good news is, if someone is clicking through and reading or watching your video for a certain amount of time, even if it's not all the way through, all of that will help boost your post. And if you have a serial liker in your world, they will not be helping you out very much. You know, they won't be doing your content any favors. Mm-hmm. And I know some people like that on Facebook because I see them like everything and I see them like it immediately, and they like everything immediately. And sometimes I just check because I think, wow, they read that fast, and it's not even my content, but I'll just double check. And I'll say, so I'll ask them a question about it. And they'll say, well, I didn't actually have time to read it right now, but they like everything, right? So yeah. Facebook is going to demote that type of an interaction after it gets analyzed. So in the beginning, you might get a little spike in your algorithm. You might get a little bit of a boost. But then when Facebook takes a look at that in terms of the qualitative value of it, if you really interacted with it, it might then level out and go down again. And we're not sure exactly how it's going to play out, but if you have a lot of content that only gets superficial interaction or superficial engagement, it may actually hurt, the ranking of your content in news feeds, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why the quality of your content is even more important now than it used to be. And when we say quality, let's talk about that for a second, Anita, because we're not talking about some kind of high-end boutique posting here.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be produced by an agency to be of quality.
Right. It just has to be meaningful and relevant to your target market, something they like, something they want to see more of, that they're going to take a minute with and, take a look at it in a more in-depth way. So
I wonder, I know a while back they made a move to decrease the amount of clickbait that we saw in headlines, but I almost wonder if this won't bring back clickbait in a new more aggressive way, because now you actually want people to click through to your content.
But there was, okay, I don't know if I have it actually written out here, but it sounds like those directives, if you say in your post, if you request that people take a particular action in your post, it's actually going to lower your ranking.
Yeah, but the clickbait titles don't request that. They're written in such a way that, oh my gosh, you have to click to see, this woman found a cardboard box. You'll never guess what she did next. Right?
I think that's exactly the type of title they're talking about. All those, the titles that Upworthy made infamous in 2012, the curiosity gap, right? Oh, well, what happened? I have to go look.
And that's what that's what their last big announcement was about trying to help us filter that stuff out, the clickbait. But what I'm saying is, I'm wondering if this algorithm change, because we now need people to click through and engage with our content in a meaningful way, is that going to bring back clickbait?
Well, I think there are meaningful ways to intrigue people, right? And to pique their interest without just saying, click here, find out this, and you can use a curiosity gap in a way that's not exploiting it or misleading people. I think that there are lots of ways to post where you can pique somebody's interest. You can give them the sense of what an article's about. On your Facebook page, for example, if you're a healthcare organization, right, and you're posting an article that's really relevant to all of your followers, and it's really relevant right now, right? If you give some interesting tips that they're going to read in that article, if you're giving some interesting graphics that they're going to see in that article, they'll want to see more, right? It's the idea of whetting someone's appetite or piquing their interest so they actually want to click through and see more. And I think that that's more what you're talking about, right? Like generating that kind of interest in a post.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what Upworthy would do. It's just they did it in a very obvious, spammy kind of way.
Yeah.
We need it to be more authentic is what we need. But I just have this fear that we'll see more clickbait as this rolls out, because that curiosity gap is hard to create in an authentic way without sounding, I don't know.
Well,
maybe I'm just not good at it.
Maybe that's the challenge. It's like the curiosity gap is so effective for getting people to click through, right? But so how do you pique someone's curiosity without appealing to the absolute lowest level of humanity, right? Or the worst emotions that people have to experience, like fear and anger and frustration. So how do you pique someone's interest without always kind of settling for those things? Although they can be used, and they can be used in lots of different ways. So I think it's a challenge, and I think it's a really interesting challenge, and it might even be worth writing an ebook about.
How to pique somebody's curiosity. I don't know. That's a good topic. It's a great topic.
Laura's in the room.
Yeah. Okay. Any other tips or strategies you wanted to mention?
The big one is to get on Facebook and play with the new, so Laura, super fast recap. On your Facebook page, you now have the option when you're posting, there's an icon at the bottom at the far right, where you can select interest tags, up to 16 of them. And that's the thing I think we all really need to play with on our pages. They're free. It's about increasing the organic visibility of your post, and it goes to people beyond your page followers. So Facebook, with the new algorithm change, is starting to match up people's interests on Facebook with page posts that are talking about those same topics. So that is the big one to play with, that I'm going to be playing with. And I think having like one new tactic to try out is good enough every week. So like give that one a try and really play with it, and also go back and look at the insights afterwards and see how you did, right? It may be maybe not as effective as creating an ad or boosting a post, but it may be so much more effective than not putting in an interest tag on that post at all. And I suspect it will be. So for that reason, I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
So play with that, everybody.
Well, if anybody is listening in that has questions about social media, whether it's about the new Facebook algorithm, which we may or may not be able to answer, or the upcoming Twitter algorithm changes, if you've got questions about any of that or any other social media questions, now is the time to type them in the chat over there with a /Q. Or if you would like to come on live, we'd prefer that we have chatted with you over in the chat for a little bit first. If you can give us an idea what it is your question is about, we might be able to let you come in live and ask. So does anybody have any questions about social media that they want us to discuss? While we're waiting to see about that, Tina, do you have any other links or resources you need to pass out on the topics today?
Those two that I put in earlier, if you scroll up, are the best, and they actually link to some other pages within the Facebook biosphere, right? They have their news biosphere. Mm-hmm. And there's we were talking earlier about what are some good practices and tips for posting on pages, Facebook pages. I'm just going to put that link in because some people might not be aware that this resource is out there and it's put out by Facebook. So these are just kind of sound fundamental principles for your Facebook page posts, and that's a really good one to just review and make sure you're doing all those things.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I did have one more. Yeah.
I was just going to ask,
can
ahead. You send me the links to all these things? Because on the replay, you can only scroll back so far. You can't go all the way back to the beginning. And even now, some people coming in now might not be able to scroll back to see all of the links we've posted. Exactly. So if you send me the links, I'll add all of the links that we've shared today on the recap post on my website. And we'll be tweeting that out and so on. So you'll be able to see all the resources there as well.
Okay, cool. And yeah, I'll definitely do that. I did have one more thought, Anita, about Twitter.
Okay.
With all the talk of tweets that are likely to be boosted to the top of the, this new algorithm are probably tweets that have a lot of engagement in them. So I would say go back to your own formula and look at the tweets you've put out in the past that have gotten the most engagement and use those. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we like to do here locally in the Halifax area is give shout outs to one another. It's something that happens all the time on Twitter. This is actually a super impressive Twitter community around Halifax. Really engaged, really talkative. Well, we're talkative people. It's the social coast, right? We're talkative people anyway. But it's such an active Twitter community. So one of the things that really works is, engage some of the people who are active with you on Twitter. Get a conversation going, but start it off with a tweet that you would like to have more visibility. And maybe even in the background as part of your strategy, I might say to Anita, okay, I want to talk about this topic on Twitter, and I'm hoping to get some interaction, but can you start me off by, let's have this conversation a little bit on Twitter. It's something that I want to promote. It's something I want to talk about. And just have a partnership with some people where you help each other out that way and get some engagement on your favorite tweets so that you can boost them a little bit, give them a little bit of a push to get up that new algorithm ladder, right?
Yeah.
So for people that have a huge following, I mean, the pool of tweets that they could possibly see is gigantic. And for people who have a small following, they'll probably see all their tweets anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and sometimes when I'm training people on Twitter for the first time, they're following like 5, 10, 15 people, and they wonder what the big deal is. Well, then when I tell them right now I'm following 4,500 or close to 5,000, they're like, well, how do you read that all? Well, I can't,
Right.
So, yeah.
So you use your other strategies like creating lists.
Yes, I'm a big user of lists and searches and so on. So,
absolutely.
All right. Well, I don't think we have any questions today. Doesn't seem to be anybody wants to post any questions. Oh, look at that. Michelle came in just as we were talking about her. It's too bad she missed where we talked about her.
Hi, Michelle. And is it Madjo? Hi, everybody who just joined us. If you guys have a question, jump on in. You can ask us any questions that have come up that are related in in the past hour as we've been talking. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Or if you want to post your question in the chat, just go ahead. It's /Q space and then type your question right in. I think we've already answered the 2 questions we had earlier.
We did. Yeah, they were answered, so I took them down. Well, it doesn't look like anybody has any questions for us right now, and we're at our 1 hour. Look at us go on time again.
Perfect.
All right. So I think that's it for today. We're going off duty. But before you go, don't forget to subscribe to next week's show. I've got the link for you right here. And we'll try to put all the links in again on the bottom so that they're there for the people who come into the replay. And I guess that's it. We'll see you next week. We don't know what our topic's going to be next week. Hopefully there'll be some big news and we can talk about that. Maybe we can get some people to talk to us about using the audience optimization on Facebook and whether or not that's made a difference for them. And we'll have a week to try that out ourselves. So I think that's it from the Social Coast today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.